So here's the thing. There's a need for us to begin to shift out of the legacy of the minister-centric pastor-flock model and the translational dimension of that practice. In other words, what I wanted to say now is that there's a need for us to move out of translational teachings and into transformational teachings. And if you're not familiar with the distinction between those two, Robert Brummett has written about those two states. Ken Wilber popularized those two. Suffice to say very simply that it's a polarity. Translational teachings and transformational teachings is a polarity rather than either or. But suffice to say that we in New Thought have erred on the side of translational teachings as our focus, and we've tried to fund our organization on translational teachings. Translational teachings are teachings that help you feel better about things. In other words, translate a bad situation into a good situation. Transformational teachings are about pushing you into your discomfort so that you see what it's connected to, and then transcend the sense of limitation that happens when you're able to see that it's just something you took on as opposed to being the truth of you. So as we begin to align our teaching, and in other words, assisting our communities with not trying to push away the discomfort, but to leverage it by learning that it's really connected to our own disconnect, and really understanding that that's really what's going on is a need to reconcile our own sense of separation with the truth that we are the one. And it's about creating a ministry that is going to walk in that talk. Walk in the talk that we're here to make a difference. We're here to be unto our own life, the Christ of God, and unto our own world, the ones. And so we have to create a ministry, and we have to create an organizational practice that models that intent. So how can you create a way in which your entire congregation can see that their purpose for coming together in ministry is to make the world a better place? And that part of that effort is to first make the world within themselves a better place, but not by just soothing things over, but by transforming one's life.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that one way of looking at translational is that it spruces up the dream a little bit for us, whereas transformational wakes us up out of the dream. And that's kind of a global way of looking at it. And so we have all these practices that help us in this, illusion of separation to alleviate some of the discomfort and to live a better life. There's nothing wrong with translational teachings. They help to make the world a better place in a sense. But the transformational ones, that's where you kind of wake up right out of it and see that it's an illusion of separation. And so there's a really big difference between the two. And as Gary mentioned, I think, my opinion too, is that we in New Thought have done a whole lot about sprucing up the dream and making people feel good. It's a feel good kind of way of being. And that a lot of people are wanting the more waking up stuff, and especially in the times that we're living in. I don't know if you've found this, but I'm finding people are just so overloaded with the stuff going on that they are turning to something more. It's like that there's a need for a bigger work. This is kind of bringing out that immune response, and a rising up of energy, where people are really stepping up and saying it's time for us to step into that arena of changing the world and to stop kind of playing small and just making my life feel better. And so as leaders, it can be very difficult when we're sort of moving in this direction that we feel like we just want everybody to be happy. We want everybody to feel good. And if we're not providing that, we feel like we're not doing the job. And so this is here's another polarity, because it's all about total compassion, really having compassion for all of us as we go through this, and also stepping into this greater sense of changing and transforming and evolving. And it's the whole evolutionary process. It's not done without some stretching.
All right, Susan, you're up next. Go ahead and.
I've got a couple of things that occurred to me when I first heard you say about the difference between the translational and transformational. My first thought was, well, I don't know that we can do that transformational on Sunday mornings kind of format, that it's going to require something that's completely different. And the danger that I see with the translational teachings, and certainly it's really becoming apparent in our community, is that people are taking that and, in a sense, kind of doing a spiritual bypass. And so we've got several members of our community who are very capable, who are becoming homeless, like literally homeless. And yet everything's fine, everything's happy. They're just reframing it in that translational way, as opposed to, for me, I'm thinking, oh my God, wake up. Like, this isn't, oh, well, it's what God wants. Apparently God wants me to go couch surfing on, everybody's couch, right? Which is like, I don't think so. Like, that's I think a real misinterpretation. And I also see that the requirement for this is that all of the leaders must be very, this is a lead by example. And so they have to be very far into that transformational process themselves.
Right. So yes, it's when there is an inundation of people who've been through a transformational journey, then there is a different family dynamic that manifests. So you're right. So did you have another question? You said you had a couple of things.
Well, that was a couple of things altogether, but I wonder what you think about, just in terms of the format, in terms of how do you deliver that transformational process?
So a couple of things. Jane and I both speak on Sundays, and our talks are typically transformational, and so we balance that. It's not something that is hard to swallow. People got used to us, and they just now expect it. As a matter of fact, the millennials, this is another thing, is that the millennials they want to hear a transformational message, in other words. And so our transformational message is not about, be in pain until there's some gain. It's not about that. But we'll talk about hell in the hallway, for instance, and how to experience that being in the in-between in a way that doesn't diminish you. So it's that way of being able to help people be in the discomfort, but be more resourceful and therefore feel empowered. So here's the thing: when we are translational as our primary focus, then we reinforce the belief that the community is really about helping me feel better. Okay, and so that's not bad. It's just a fact that we condition that dynamic in the unconscious of the community. When we are primarily more transformational, we condition in the community more empowerment. Can you see how that's the difference? Is that when you have people who are now welcoming transformative teachings and are used to the extra effort and discipline that's required for transformational teachings to really work, they feel more empowered. And that's the other side of it, is that you get to a place where people want that, and they're just not going to tolerate what has become, for some, what they can get other places. And it's not to say that there isn't transformation happening. It's just that we branded ourselves in that way. We've intentionally sought to create that awareness in the public that this is our the context of our spiritual practice.